Last month, on July 2026, OpenAI disclosed an attack, a sophisticated attack, that were carried by their frontier model agents on another company's own infrastructure called Hugging Face. And it involved a lot of vulnerability exploitation and sophisticated attack, and they called it one of a time, where an automated autonomous agent can break out of their sandbox. I want to talk about what we know so far, because what we know is two pieces of articles. One article published by, actually just one piece of article where it has the most details, by OpenAI. Another piece of article by Hugging Face from their point of view. And then there is a video that was published by Black Hat that one of the OpenAI employees who are working on this actually talked about that. We got a lot more details about that. Still, there were a lot of hand-wavy stuff. We still don't know the details, but I'm here, of course, to speculate as to what exactly happened. And once we get the full RCA, which we don't have yet as of today, what is today? And it's today, August 14. We don't have it yet. We don't have that full RCA. But let's summarize the events. So there is this exercise called Exploit Gem, which is an exercise that people give to agents to see if they can break a vulnerability, break into a system and find a file that basically has the answer that, hey, you actually exploited a vulnerability, so you're good. It's a well-known thing. They know it. People design it. It's a specific, like, I don't know, Linux kernel bug or specific software. And they give you a sandbox, and this sandbox is closed. You don't have access to the internet or anything. You have to just work it out yourself. So you sit down and work it out until you solve it, right? It's not different than what we have out there, like normal security research, that, hey, I want to test how good you are. Try to break it. So Exploit Gem is one of these exercises. This exercise was given to one of the OpenAI's frontier agents. Here's a lot of details that we gathered. They set this up in a Kubernetes cluster. They don't mention that, but there's like a one line at the end of the video where they mentioned that, and you got it. You get that they have a Kubernetes cluster. They set that up. That Kubernetes cluster, guess what? It has access to the internet. That's the first mistake. But the container where the agents run was isolated. It didn't have access to the internet, the pod, if you will. It didn't have access to the internet. It has access to what? To another registry. What is it called? The package manager. It's called Artifactory, which I never heard about. So I searched about this, and it's an open source package manager that is allow agents or anyone to download modules to run. Of course, you need code to execute, right? So all kind of libraries, you can do that. And that Artifactory instance is also another container. But guess what? That does have access to the internet. The containers where the agents are running, they do not have access to the internet. They are isolated to only the IP address of that container where Artifactory, you can download stuff. And it's a proxy where you can, if it's cached, if the package that the agent needs cached, it just downloads it. If it's not, it goes to the internet and downloads it. So that's the first mistake, right? It's not really isolated if you have access to the internet through just one hop. That's the first, to me, that's not really sandbox, is it? But I digress. So then, the other thing we don't know is that the Artifactory version that are running is not the open source version that I'm guessing, because there is an enterprise version. My guess is OpenAI runs the enterprise because it's an enterprise, right? They wouldn't just use the open source. That's my guess. So it might have features that is not available in the open source, and those features may have bugs, they may have stuff, right, that is not available in the open source. So it's not as battle tested. So that's what we know so far. So what the first thing agents found, they found an server-side request forgery exploit in Artifactory. If you don't know, I made a video about that on my main channel. Essentially, in the request, when you make a request, you can specify parameters, right? And if you allow mistakenly trust the user parameter as a URL, then the user may submit a malformed request to access a URL that they are not supposed to access, but they will be accessing it as the proxy, or as the backend in this case, which is Artifactory. So this is what server-side request forgery. So you would send something, and it's something like, I don't know, some slash path, right? But if you don't sanitize that slash path, and the user sent, I don't know, www.google.com/path, and you just trust the user's path as a URL, and you just make a curl or make a fetch, that is a server-side request forgery. So you allowed the client to make a request on their behalf by you, actually the backend, making a request. So they exploited that. They found it. Oh, looks like I can send a URL here. I'm gonna try to find an answer for this, because they are lazy. That's what agents do. They never actually try to solve it. They try to find an answer that's outside. So they found this exploit, which is impressive, right? I'm not gonna downscale this. It's an impressive thing. So they found this exploit. They started sending requests to find, and I might be getting the timeline here, but wrong. But this is the gist of it. So they started using that exploit to query the internet to find an answer for the exploit gem, which is the exercise they were given to solve the vulnerability, right? They were given. So they started doing that, and then OpenAI, there was not a lot of stuff gone there. They mentioned that the agents established some sort of a message board. I don't find that very interesting, to be honest. So they used Artifactory as a write access, where they start writing messages, and then other agents start reading the messages, so they are collaborating. I found this to be like it's like I've been sold something, like, oh, look at agents being, communicating with each other. Really? I don't know. I didn't find that very impressive. But that's how they said, like, oh, the agents are talking to each other, and I found this, by the way, go there. But they don't mention that hundreds and thousands of messages were just garbage. All right, I try to, when the things are impressive, I'll mention it. When things are, I will also mention it. Like this message board, they spent like, 10 minutes just talking about message boards and how things were impressive with them. Really, just you built a bulletin boards. Good for you, agents. So anyway, so they talk to each other, and they exchange information. They found this SSRF, and they start querying the internet. Anyway, nothing happened here. That's the only thing that happened. That attack, that SSRF, where they used it to fetch information, vulnerabilities about the Linux kernel they're running, and they downloaded all this information. But nothing got breached so far. Here, OpenAI found that bug. It's like, okay, what's happening here? There's a lot of activity going to outside from this Artifactory server. They blocked it. They fixed the SSRF. They blocked it. And then the agents found another attack. That's the one that is impressive. They found, I'm going to summarize it here. There was an organization internal in OpenAI that Artifactory has access to. They found that. They have access to that. Somehow they got write access to that organization. Let's say maybe it's an internal GitHub repository, right? They called it organization 1. That's not a lot of details, but they found that. And then inside that, they uploaded Ruby code, and they asked Artifactory to read that Ruby package and execute it. Now, that Ruby code was malicious. It was trying to write something to the container that is running. Remember, this whole thing is Kubernetes, right? So that Ruby code was trying to write something. Of course, there is in Artifactory, it tries to check if that code is malicious or not. But there is an attack where it's called time to check, time to use. This is very, very common in database systems where you really need to do things atomically. If you check something, is this code good? If yes, then go and execute it, right? This, if it's good, and then between that and go ahead and execute it, there is a gap. And agents exploit that gap. This is a very common attack, where it's a timed attack, where they would do the check, make the check pass, then change the script to make it exploitable so that the Artifactory will execute it. So now we have a remote code execution, effectively. We have a Ruby code that was malicious. It passed, they made it benign first, passed the check, and then immediately changed it to make it malicious, to write to disk, essentially. Right? Let's say I'm going to write to disk to do something. And just like that, they were able to execute code on the container. Now the system knows that they are on a Kubernetes cluster. So using that attack, they figured out that they are, because it's a Kubernetes cluster, it's running some either containerd or some container runtime. But because they able to run code now with this exploit, they figured out the Linux kernel version. Now, using the information they obtained before in the SSRF, they knew, I say like the agents, like they're alive, right? They found that, oh, this Linux kernel have a bug or a privilege escalation. Let me exploit that and execute the code so that I became root. And then just like that, they exploited that kernel, because remember, the kernel is shared between all containers, right? So now we have agents that were able to execute code using the time of check, time of use. They executed it. They escalated the rule, which is all impressive, right? If you think about it, just the speed of checks. But they only were able to do that because they have access to the internet. Okay? Now, they became root. The next thing, and I'm just a little bit shallow in the detail, but it's possible if you're root in a container, you can take access of the service account in the Kubernetes and ask it to create a new container. And if you were able to create a new container, guess what? I'm going to create a brand new container. I'm going to expose port 22. I'm going to SSH into that mama. And I have full access. I have a container with full internet access because, hey, guess what? Service account, the Kubernetes cluster has access to the internet. So yeah, I'm going to create a new container or pod and give myself full access to the internet because that's just another parameter. When you do that, you expose port 22. Again, they didn't mention any of that stuff. I'm speculating that what happened. They called it lateral movement. I hate when people say that stuff. You know, this is like all abstraction and vague language. Lateral movement, like what? I'm just dancing like that. It's just as if like they're acting like a worm or something, right? It's like, come on, talk technical, guys. Let's go technical. We're not scared of the technicalities. Be as technical as possible. Or just say, hey, we don't know. We don't know, that's fine. I don't know a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff, this is the first time I've seen a lot of this stuff. It's okay. Just say, I don't know. People will never say, I don't know. They will just lateral movement. Come on, seriously? Anyway, so they create another container. Now have full access. Now have SSH. Yeah, it's like that. Is that what happened? Tell me I'm wrong. But that, when I have access to that, you can create another container. Now you have a full access to that. And just like that, you have full access to the internet. And now they started their attack on Hugging Face, which is another story. Apparently they left a credentials out there in the internet and the agents found it. How secure is that? And use that had that credential, and they started attacking the servers to log in, and they caused havoc on Hugging Face, and of course that was blocked. And that was like another sell point. They was like, oh, we used our agents to block it because it was so disastrous. Oh my God. So yeah, that's the useful part that we gain. Vulnerabilities, Linux escalation, that's good. SSRF, that was awesome. The escalation to get access to the Kubernetes cluster, to create another container or to access other containers that has access, that was awesome. And maybe I'm wrong about that part. It's either created another container or accessed the next container that has full access to the internet. But in summary, is this a sandbox in your opinion? Having a Kubernetes cluster that has access to the internet? In my opinion, that's not. If you have access to the internet, you're not sandbox. It's just like one hop. Have you not heard of a DMZ before, guys? Right? It's like this meme where we have, agents broke out, and there's this door with the Cheetos as a lock. That's exactly what it feels like. It's like, yeah, we put the Cheetos, and the agents broke out. Of course they did. Oh my God. Yeah. So there are some amazing things here, but I don't think any of this stuff a human couldn't have discovered. Right? A human with deep security knowledge, they could have done the same thing, in my opinion. If you give them a box with access to another container that happened to have access to the internet, of course they would do. They have their knowledge. I'd like to see a sandbox that create a Kubernetes cluster that has no access to the internet. How about that crazy idea? Put them there. You don't have access to the internet. Oh, but what if they want a package that is not access to the internet? Just download. Hey, you're allowed to use these packages. That's it. You're not allowed to use other packages. I don't know. Or create a package which has everything you need. I know this is not feasible, but sometimes you may need to make the problem harder, in my opinion. All right, so that's the summary. That's what we know. I might be wrong on some of the parts, but I'll reference the articles here. I might have missed something. Let me know. And yeah, agents will rule the world at the end of the day, as long as you give them access to the internet and make it so easy for them. See you in the next one.